In 1888, an obscure American author named Ingersoll Lockwood published a bizarre fantasy novel. It followed the adventures of a wealthy, arrogant young aristocrat. The boy in the story lives in a lavish estate called Castle Trump. To navigate his strange underground journey, he relies on a mentor known simply as Don. The protagonist's name is Barron. 8 years later, in 1896, Lockwood followed up with a sequel titled The Last President. The plot reads like a modern political thriller. A deeply divisive populist leader wins a shock election, prompting massive protests to erupt along Fifth Avenue in New York. The fictional president even selects a cabinet member named Pence. A century later, these strange literary parallels ignited wild internet theories. Online forums began circulating the idea that the Trump family possessed classified time travel technology, passed down through Donald Trump's scientist uncle, John G. Trump. Before a real child ever carried the name, Barron Trump was already a figure of myth. The internet had built a massive, bizarre set of public expectations around an identity that didn't yet exist in the real world. But the obsession with the name didn't start with internet sleuths. Back in 1980s New York, Donald Trump developed an intense personal fascination with the moniker. He created a fake public relations identity named John Barron. When reporters called the Trump Organization looking for comments, they would often get this Vice President of Public Relations on the line, which was simply Donald Trump speaking about himself in the third person. Operating as John Barron, he actively planted favorable news stories. He famously lied to a Forbes reporter, claiming that Donald Trump owned the vast majority of his father's assets, effectively manipulating his way onto the Forbes 400 wealth list. The ruse worked for a decade. It only ended in 1990 when Donald Trump was forced to testify under oath in a court proceeding that he occasionally used the alias. For well over a century, the idea of a Barron Trump was entirely fictional, a character in a novel, and a tool for media manipulation. It was an empty vessel, waiting to be filled when the actual heir was born in 2006. The real Barron Trump grew up in stark contrast to the loud, attention-seeking empire his father built. His childhood was fiercely protected. Under his mother Melania's direction, he was kept away from the political spotlight. He absorbed her European sensibilities, learning to speak fluent Slovenian and spending countless hours with his maternal grandparents. While his father held rallies, Barron lived a largely introverted, apolitical youth. He focused his energy on the soccer pitch, eventually earning a spot as a midfielder for the DC United Academy's under-12 team. This intense parental shielding and international upbringing produced an old soul. Observers describe a teenager who listens closely before he speaks, stepping entirely outside the traditional bombastic Trump brand playbook. Today, that quiet teenager is a 19-year-old freshman attending classes at NYU's Stern School of Business. His daily reality is marked by extreme friction. He navigates campus accompanied by a full Secret Service detail. Coming from a highly polarizing political family, he faces significant social isolation from his predominantly liberal peers, leading to rumors that he's a geek who struggles to fit into the standard college dating scene. Excluded from typical campus life, he retreated into the digital world. He embedded himself deeply within online gaming communities and niche internet subcultures. That deep internet literacy allowed him to identify a specific opening in the 2024 media landscape that traditional political consultants were overlooking. Barron directed the campaign to bypass traditional cable news for certain key audiences. He specifically pushed his father to sit down for a 3-hour interview on the Joe Rogan Experience. He expanded this strategy by identifying high-traffic influencers connected to digital subcultures, recommending the campaign lean into alternative platforms and personalities like Andrew Tate. This chart tracks historical turnout for young conservative male voters. For several election cycles, this demographic remained flat and unengaged. But in 2024, following targeted podcast appearances, Republican votes among young men spiked sharply. A teenager isolated from his college peers leveraged his understanding of the internet's fringes to mobilize a demographic that had historically been difficult to reach. He spotted an opening and gave the specific advice needed to capitalize on it. In the 1980s, John Barron was a loud, imaginary voice used to grab media headlines. In 2025, the real Barron Trump has taken a very different path. The fake identity was a megaphone for ego. The son's approach is defined by a quiet focus on identifying cultural shifts and recommending specific digital platforms before they become mainstream campaign talking points. While his older siblings manage highly visible roles, the youngest is building his own groundwork. Beyond his political advice, he has already co-founded a luxury real estate venture and is quietly developing an independent network of digital power brokers. By focusing on the digital fringes, he has outgrown the old family myths and fake identities of the past. He's demonstrated a modern expertise that helped his father's campaign connect with a generation that traditional media simply could not reach.